All right, what are we doing today? So today we're going to be going over a Cymatics sample pack. It's the Diamond Hip Hop sample pack. I'm going to run you through some of the sounds, and then I'm going to jump straight into Ableton and kind of show you a little session I've worked on using these samples. We'll get fired straight into the melodies. They've got two folders here. They've got synth loops and piano loops. Honestly, on a lot of the synth loops, I thought they were a little bit dated. I know this pack's been out for a little while now. I just thought some of them were a bit too plain Jane. I thought the sound selection was a bit safe. And also, as far as the melodies go, a lot of them just kind of... Here, I'll show you. Just that kind of dun 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 dun. There were a few that stood out though. Here, I'm gonna stick my headphones on. All right. Loop 25 reminded me a lot of some of the stuff off a few Drake albums. Loop 24 to me was probably the most fun sounding one. I imagine it's the one people probably chop up and use the most. That's fire. I thought loops 1 and 11 would be really good to chop up. That one's nice and bouncy. Cool. I ended up using loop 6 for my track though, just because I could kind of hear where I wanted to place the 808s from my first listen. It's probably another critique I have for the pack though. Like, was there really a big difference between the first half of that loop and the second half of the loop? Cool, so on the piano loops, the ones that were most notable to me was loop number 5. I just feel like if you wanted to, you could put a really nice like melody over the top of that and it would be in the ballpark of like a Juice WRLD track. Outside of that number 5 though, I wasn't overly hyped with the piano ones. I think maybe loop 10 gets used a lot as well. Why am I finger gunning? Pew pew! Bouncy. Bit of critique towards the effects section of this pack. So in the various effects folder, I mostly only liked the shatter sound here and this siren sound. This whole little folder kind of felt like an afterthought. I mean, I understand that a lot of like old school hip hop uses like alarm and siren sounds, but having like 5 alarm sounds and then like one type of bullet sound and one stomp, and I don't know. With the ambience as well, I feel like it's a missed opportunity to get like field recordings outside nightclubs and, you know, in the streets and stuff as well, just to give the tracks a feel. Even like if it had some like rain for lo-fi hip hop or anything, they've pretty much just got these tones. And they're all kind of same. Another issue is they haven't seemed to cut the loop correctly. When you drag and drop out the box, there's noticeable clicking whenever the loop restarts. One place where I find Cymatics sample packs always really shine is in their drum loops, specifically their hi-hat loops and their top loops. Their loops are extremely usable and frankly really good to learn from. It's cool that they have these isolated little loops where you can study how they've done it. In the snare pack, we have a total of 20 snares, which is, I guess you could say, generous. For me, it's like that's way too many snares that's way too many snares to run through. This little cutie is 20 years old and will just consistently cry for attention, which makes recording pretty difficult. I like that they've included 25 percussion shots. It definitely feels like they've tailored it more towards boom bap than sort of modern trap. Really good selection of kicks. The only thing that's confusing me about the pack as a whole is the fact that there's all these like boom bap sounds, yet they've only included like modern 808 trap style bass sounds. Like, I thought to complement these sounds, it would have been nice to add like real bass samples. I guess another small critique I have for the pack as well is I wish they had just trimmed the fat a little bit. I couldn't help but notice that, say, hi-hat 15 and hi-hat 5, they're different, but like, is it necessary to have both of them? The more you play them next to each other, they start to sound more similar than dissimilar. It's the same with hi-hat 1 and 4. To me, it was a similar thing with the claps. It almost feels like they've recorded 8 or so original samples and then just layered them differently, which is okay, but I almost just wish that they had included the original recordings and we could have just layered them ourselves. Probably being too harsh. Onto the 808s. Cool. A lot of those 808s had a ton of sustain on them. So if you're the kind of person that likes to tailor the length of your 808, these have a lot of room to play with. Last but not least, I'm so sorry, I'm being mean again. The vocals, why?
Squad.
Yo, ho, now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, out of that, maybe the crowd noise as like a breath. Like, when are you ever going to use these sounds? Like, once again, it's just, it feels like they've just added it in with no thought. So despite being super critical, I actually did really enjoy making a track with these loops and one shots. As stated earlier, I went for the Melody Loop 6, and I decided to run the session at that sample's BPM. On the sample, I ended up chopping a few bits away just to create more space, and I also doubled a few sounds up, just kind of try to make it a little bit different. I also duplicated that whole track, brought it up 24 semitones, stuck it on Complex Pro, and lowered the formants to 30.47. If you happen to notice the sample I've used is moving a little differently to the original, it's because I've stuck on some sidechain compression. To do that, make a kick track, slap a kick sample on it, and you space your kicks accordingly to how often you want the volume to bounce up and down. You then slap a compressor on the track you want to affect. By default in Ableton, the compressor looks like this. You just hit this little drop down arrow, slap on sidechain, and then you want to click on the track you've used as sidechain. Also, be sure to mute that sidechain track. So this is with it off, and this is with it on. It can be as subtle or as noticeable as you want. I've went quite harsh on that one. I also decided to drop in loop 1 from the Melody Pack. Because it was originally at 100 BPM, it's moving a lot faster than it would have sounded when we were listening to it before. It sounds a little weird out of context, but it actually sounds quite nice in the track. For the kick, I ended up using kick 4. One really good thing about Cymatics, I don't even actually know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Cymatics? I'm just going to go with Cymatics. I'm probably getting this horribly wrong. We used the Diamonds 25 sample for that one. So I ended up using Snare 20. It's really bright and snappy. As with a lot of these tracks, I've rolled off just a little bit of the sub to give the 808 some space. Don't even ask me what I've done with the perk. I was experimenting. Okay. It's allowed. Cool. As I said, just a short one today. My final thoughts on the sample pack is that there are a lot of really good sounds in it. I just wish maybe they'd cut down on the amount of samples they had. Nobody wants to cycle through 20 snares when you're in the middle of producing. As always, the hi-hat loops are amazing. Cool. I've done a bit of composing on the loop we ran through. Just going to play it out now. Hope to catch you on the next one.